question.
Rebecca, and this may be something all three of you can touch on, but Jobin just overheard in the courtroom one of the bailiffs asked, what's happening with the sentencing documents, and Bill Werski said they want sudden passion. We're fine with that. They want sudden passion. We're fine with that. Where does that line of discussion take you when it comes to the punishment phase?
Well, we know, Chris, that sudden passion would bring down that the sentencing from 5 to 99 to 2 to 20. So Bill Werski, apparently the judge asked him, where do we stand on the document for the charges here in the punishment phase? And he then said, we are okay and good with sudden passion. Okay. Would that be something, because we were talking about that you weren't quite sure if they had reached that legal threshold for them to consider sudden passion?
So, you can always go back to guilt, innocence. And so if there's been some sort of evidence, let's say that evidence of sudden passion came out in testimony, Mr. Anthony didn't have time for cool reflection in what he did, then you could also present it in punishment. Even though defense didn't call a witness to try to put sudden passion in, sounds like the state's going to be in agreement to having that included. And so if that's the case, it definitely can go in the charge for punishment.
So they're okay with the lower punishment.
Well, what does that tell you that they would even agree to? What does it tell you that they would agree to that?
I think that it tells me that they want to give this jury the total range to do whatever they think is appropriate. So if the jury thought less than 5 years was appropriate, he's going to go to prison no matter what because he's been convicted of murder. But I think it just gives the jury just the ability to consider everything, the full range, and to do whatever it is that they want. Could be, for the prosecution's standpoint, you also don't want this coming back, and so if that evidence got presented and you objected to that charge coming in, then it could give Mr. Anthony another avenue for appeal, and they could just say, hey, we're fine with that. And they, whether they think that a jury would give him 2 or they feel more than confident that a jury is going to reach the right decision, that seems to me the strategy behind that.
So it could be eliminating some appellate issues.
It could be, totally.
Chris, back to you.
Yeah, and Rebecca, I just want to get some clarification, especially for those of us and some of our viewers included who aren't as well versed in the law and how these legal proceedings can play out. These sentencing documents, when they're saying they want sudden passion, we're fine with that. So the prosecutors are saying, I assume they're talking about the defense attorneys want to include that in the charging documents, this idea of sudden passion, but that would still be something the jury would have the wherewithal to accept or disregard. Am I right there?
Yeah, that's correct. So he's wanting to know that he says that it's probably the defense that wants the sudden passion added to the documents and the charges, and then the prosecution not objecting. But ultimately, it's up to the jury to determine whether or not the sudden passion applies here, or they're going to, impose the between 5 to 99 or 2 to 20.
Right, and they would have to find that sudden passion existed if they sentence 2, 3, or 4 years, because that's below the punishment range on murder without sudden passion. So they could say, hey, we don't find sudden passion and we sentence him to 10 years or something like that, and that's in that range of punishment for murder. Or they could say, we find that sudden passion existed and we sentence him to 3 years or 4 years or 2 years. It just gives them a bigger range to assess punishment.
Can you explain to the viewers what sudden passion is? Because I've always heard it more applied to in, let's say, a domestic violence sort of situation. How does it apply, or would it apply in this situation?
So sudden passion, it's just basically a person acts in a way without cool reflection, that they act so suddenly, so quick, that they don't have time to reflect. And the hypothetical that we always give, kind of like what you said, either domestic violence, the person that walks in on their spouse in an affair and the two people there and they just react and they do something, kill one of one of the parties or whatever. So the passion was so quick, so sudden, that they didn't have time to just take a step and reflect and have cool reflection, and that's why they acted. And so in a situation like this, young 17-year-old, adrenaline going, a lot of people around, I'm just grabbing something and I do it. And that's kind of where they would maybe try to make an argument that he just didn't have time for cool reflection. He's 17, a lot of testosterone, a lot of hormones going, and he just acted suddenly without really thinking about what he was doing.